Oh, it's on record. Whoops. Hey guys. Look at the shiny grapes. I've lost them. Nope, there they are.
Party for our beloved Ralph and Robertson Telsner. We're also pleased to greet Diane Lindley, President of the Federation, and we're also delighted to see Robertson Brasida and I can remember saying that he's still with us, but now 8 years on, sadly, this is no longer true. Now, I've heard in the foyer people muttering, saying, the Aussies have beaten us at cricket, now they want to take our rabbi. I would like this evening to be thought of as a celebration of 23 years of dedicated service and joyous association, an evening full of emotion and special memories. Former President of Finchley Central before me, now Life President, Warden for 13 years, Honorary Joint Secretary of the Burial Society, known as the Frank Sinatra of Finchley Central for his smooth, silky singing of Samiras at Shalish Tudors. You still don't know who I mean? I'll give you one last clue. He collects all the chamoshim in his corner after the laning and puts them away. Yes, now I see you know who I mean. I knew you'd get in the end, you just need a little help from me. For me, he will always be that thespian, the creator of Golden Screen Gertie and the other characters in his charity shows. If the world's a stage and we are merely players, then there's none better than direct from topping the bill at the Brighton Pavilion. I give you Henry Doney.
When a righteous and learned man leaves a city, has an effect on that city. Whilst he is there, he is its splendour, its lustre, and its beauty. And when he leaves, all that departs with him. Raptel's departure is indeed going to have a very marked effect, not only on Finchley Central Shore, but much further afield. His departure will be felt throughout London, throughout the UK, and indeed in many parts of Europe. For the past 23 years, whilst he's been ministering to our shore, he's also carried out numerous functions elsewhere. His association with the Jewish societies in very many universities in the UK is legendary. When required, he sat as a part-time dime in the Federation based in. He's taken part in many series of lectures and shiurim, most recently at the KLC, where his talks on Rambam were widely acclaimed. And outside of the UK, he's been a frequent guest speaker at events in France, Germany, Denmark, and several other European countries. Now, I'm no judge of rabbinical learning, but I listen to those who are, and I know that Sweet Telsner is a godel, but his lumdus is legendary, his breadth and depth of learning is vast, and his continuing thirst for learning is never-ending. But lest you think that Rav Telsner's talents lie simply in the spiritual world, I shall now let you into a little secret, the secret part of his material life. Rav Telsner has a passion for himself as something of an oxymoron. The information was that his decision was to go to Australia was taken at that time. That is, well before the English rout by their Australian tormentors in the recent Ashes series. The Australian selectors were not particularly happy with their team, and they wanted a surefire winner. So who better than fiery Sweet Telsner? Cast your minds back a few years when Finchley Central played a needle match against Ner Yisrael over Sukkot HaShilishim a few weeks earlier, whilst Mitch Keller was trying to drum up some players. Rav Telsner asked rather diffidently whether he might be considered for the team. As gently and tactfully as he could, Mitch explained that in this game, white was the predominant colour. And the Rav's black supporter might not go down too well. That's fine, he retorted. I'll wear my kittle over it. And so the day of the match dawned, and we were all very worried, since the Ner Yisrael had a formidable reputation. We're told that when any of the Gedolim in our history was about to go into battle, he prayed for victory. I had been praying ever since I knew that the match was to be played. And suddenly on the morning of the match, I found it in the Korbanos, In that section, headed Trumas Hadeshe, we read, Mechisne va Gilbash al Basura Harayan es Hadeshe. Translated means, and he is to put on linen breeches upon his flesh, and he is to pick up the ashes. Wow. We were home and dry. Sadly, of course, we were neither home nor dry, and the Finchley Central team suffered that same ignominious fate as our national side did recently, but without quite as much publicity and hand-wringing. To his great surprise, to his great credit and our surprise, Rav Telsner actually acquitted himself extremely well in this game, which to him, as an American, must have seemed totally alien. So we've seen Rav Telsner, the ministering Rav, and the man of learning. We've seen Rav Telsner, the educationalist. We've seen Tzvi Telsner, the sportsman. But for me, the overarching and personal impression of the man is Rabbi Telsner, the mensch. Now, literally translated, that word, of course, means a person. But in Yiddish, it has an infinitely more far-reaching connotation. Having blown shofar in shul on Rosh Hashanah, at the end of davening, and it's now 1:30, most people would be happy to go home and have lunch. Not so Rav Telsner. He knows that there's a lady in the Royal Free Hospital who probably won't have heard shofar. So he sets off on a 3-mile walk to make sure she's able to take part of the mitzvah. Never mind that he won't have lunch until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. There's a mitzvah to be done, a person to be helped, and there's no question that he's going to do it. He knows that there's a person who, for whatever reason, may not have somewhere to go for a Friday night meal or Shabbat lunch. Without hesitation, that person is invited to the Telsner's table. And not just once, but time and time again, for as long as is necessary. And here I must say a word about our beloved Rebbetzin. It is said that behind every great man, there's a great woman. And that is certainly the case here. As a hostess, she is never fazed by however many guests turn up for a meal, and often without any notice. The home, table, the Hachnosos Orachim all simply expand to meet the current requirement. And who but the Rebbetzin spent hours before Purim making up 60 or so little Shlachamonos parcels for members of our Kehillah. And when people are unwell or in hospital, Miriam tells that it is often seen accompanying her husband in visiting them. But in the past 23 years or so, it's not just the Rav and Rebbetzin that we've had working for the shul, for the welfare of the shul. We've had Team Telsner. Virtually every one of the boys, as they've reached bar mitzvah, have done this in months or in some cases years of laning in our shul. And to all of them too, we owe a debt of gratitude. But of all of Rav Telsner's personas, the one that touches me most is that of a friend. In the more than 2 decades that we've had the pleasure of knowing him, he's been an integral part of our lives, as he has been to many others here tonight. I'm not often given to kissing hairy men, but whenever we've had a simcha, a Rav Telsner hug and a kiss is something really meaningful, and something to cherish. And Rachmana litzlan, when something unpleasant strikes, he's there also to give a word of comfort. We should certainly miss them all, as one does miss friends who leave. But we also rejoice in the fact that they're leaving to better themselves. Rav Telsner has a huge job to do in Australia, and I'm certain he will rise to the occasion. We all look forward to hearing of the success of the new Wizard of Oz. We knew things were serious when the Rav returned recently from a trip to Melbourne with corks hanging from his trilby and an 8-inch Bowie knife in his garden. And so it does seem inevitable that the Telsner family is moving to Australia, that well-known cradle of culture where the national sport is pygmy throwing. And so as the hands of the clock move implacably forward and clutch at the Telsners, and we imagine the band striking up the chords of Waltzing Matilda, it's almost time to bid farewell to the Telsner family. And taking a stage further, Russian comment on Parashas Vayeze, I'm bound to say that Finchley's loss will be Australia's gain. You go with the good and fond wishes of all of us, and on behalf of myself and my family, and Lord Finchley Central, I wish you a slap for Robert, and may Hashem and the Rebbe continue guiding you on the path of success. Thank you.
Your head is in the way.
I'm moving back.
No, you guys.
Hello? Can I have attention, please?
Some guy in this
Before he took over as Roger Easton of the Federation, Federation's image wasn't what it should be. He has brought it forward to its new glory and reputation. I heard an American Jewish conference page where one of the speakers declared, we need to be organised like the London Federation based did. It now has an international reputation for excellence, thanks greatly to its Ross-based did. A person of great integrity and willing to make a firm stand on Torah issues and principles. It is a great privilege for me to call upon Diane Lichtenstein to say a few words.
Film the whole film with the taping.
Diane knows us, and yes, this evening, Rabbi Elsner, President of the Federation, Alan Finley, Mrs. Finley, and Reverend Braziner and her daughter. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone here, it's a semi-sweet evening tonight. On the one hand, all of us are good friends of the Telzers, and we rejoice in their fortune to going to a very prestigious position in Australia. And on the other hand, kosher alai vidasta. It's hard to say farewell. I've had the pleasure and the honor of having had Rabbi Telzer as a colleague, not only in the rabbinate, but also as a frequent member of the Bezdin, sitting in on numerous in the Torah and Gittin, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have been with him on all of these occasions. His scholarship, as is very well known, he's a Talmud Chacham of the first order. He's also, though, a very wise man. And in a Bezdin, it's extremely important to have a Mr. Seichel too, which Baruch Hashem, he's blessed with. But most important, and what Henry mentioned is so true, is a mensch. People come into a Bezdin, and yes, they need a dayan to adjudicate the din, but sometimes they need someone who has a toiv lev, someone who has a sensitive heart, someone who cares for the people who come into the Bezdin. And that's what he has. And it's been not only, as I said, a pleasure and an honor, but it's been an inspiration having him on the Bezdin. And I'm sure all of you will, in a certain sense, be mourning his loss, the loss we have. But we wish him and his Rebbetzin much hatzlacha in their new move to Australia, that they should be zoichet to be marbitz Torah and Yiddishkeit in the same way that you've done here, and that we should be zoich, all of us, to see the Mashiach to Kedem Perev Yomeinu Amen. I haven't yet finished this. Henry mentioned before a number of the qualities of Rabbi Telzer, and somehow we had to run to Vayetze to find the qualities of Rabbi Telzer. You didn't have to go that far. Your Chumash, Henry, should have opened up to last week's Seder, Parsha Shmois. Parsha Shmois deals with the whole story of Moshe Rabbeinu. But you want to know what is the most fascinating part of that Seder, of Parsha Shmois? One small incident, and yet it's such an important incident. The story of the burning bush. We all know, what the Pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu was tending the sheep of Yisro, his father-in-law. I'm not sure what the deal was over there, but he was tending the sheep, and all of a sudden, he comes to this bush, and the Rebbeinu Shalom appears to him in the bush, and a miracle happens. The bush is burning, and yet, hasneh einem ukol. It doesn't get destroyed. And Moshe Rabbeinu was puzzled by this. Madua lo yivar hasneh. Why hasn't the bush burnt? And of course, as we all know, the bush is the symbol of Klal Yisrael. And it shows how Klal Yisrael is going to, no matter what happens to Klal Yisrael, we will persevere and we will always That's the message. But there's another question. Why is it that the image of fire was used? Why fire? And the answer is simply because Torah is Aish. Torah is always considered like fire. And Rabbi Telsner is that Aish. He is a man of fire. Sitting next to him, you cannot help but be impressed by the fire that person encompasses. And it's a good fire, because a fire, of course, can burn. It can be bad, but a fire can warm. A fire can also light. And Rabbi Telsner is that fire. He's the fire that warms. He is the fire that lights, not the fire that burns. Now, many of you can attribute this to his there's something else about him, as being a Lubavitcher. I have to say that in all the years I've known him, and I've known him now 18 years, and I have to confess that I have quite a bit of shyness with Lubavitch, because I went to school in Lubavitch. My father was a yeshiva in Lubavitch. We have never, ever discussed Lubavitchian philosophy. However, 2 minutes doesn't pass that we do speak about Lubavitch. And it's always a positive thing. He has used his capability of Lubavitch in a positive manner. And this fire of his has helped to warm and to give light to so many people. His friends, other Rabbonim, his Kehillah, the Finchley Central, and students all over. One can easily say that Anglo Jewry will not be the same for Rabbi Telsner, because there are so many people all over. And I tell you something, that how often do I meet people and inevitably, when I ask them the question, how do they become frum? How do they become religious? What's their association? The answer always comes back to Tzvi Telsner. The hashpah, the influence that this man has had, is phenomenal. Without any arrogance, without any ears about him. He comes in, and he has a midah of anova, of humility with him, without ever trying to impose his way. Nevertheless, he succeeds in his influence. It's my bracha, Tzvi, Rabbi Telsner, you should continue to use this koyach to be marvelous Torah wherever you will be. No, there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos says, Sholosh ksorim hein, there are 3 crowns. What are they? Keser Torah, the crown of Torah. Keser Kahuna, the crown of Kahuna, the priesthood. And Keser Malchus, crown of kingdom. And the Mishnah says they're all very 3 important crowns, and yet there is one crown that is more chesherer, is more important than our Keser Shepherd. The crown of a good name, Ola al Gabeha, is more important and is higher than all of them. And the Mefarshim say it's not incidental. When one uses these 3 madregas, these 3 qualities, Torah, Kahuna, and Malchus, you get this Keser Shepherd. I think that this applies very much to Rabbi Telsner. Keser Torah, I don't have to elaborate on. Everyone knows what kind of Talmud Chacham he is. Keser Kahuna, the crown of priest, of the priesthood. The Mefarshim say you don't have to be a kohen only for the Keser Kahuna. Kahuna refers to his avodas Hashem, to Yir Shemayim and avodas Hashem, promoting God's glory. And in that, he has been exceptional. But the 3rd one, Keser Malchus, the Mefarshim say means not necessarily a king. Leadership. Leadership The Kesser Kahuna refers to the role that can do this job, and that is Rabbi tells you. He has that Kesser Malchus. He has led this community, and it was not an easy job to step into Dayan Brazina's footsteps. We all remember Dayan Brazina, how loved he was and how respected he was. And yet the transition between him and Rabbi Telzer was almost seamless. And what happened. And this has been the mazel of the Finchley Central community. Keser Malchus, he has had this capability of leading his community. But you want to know why he has had this? Because there's one midah of Rabbi Telzman, and this is the trait I think all of us, every single person in this room, will have to admit he has. The Pasuk says, Sheker sonesi v'aseiva, ahavti Torah. That David HaMelech says, my love for Torah is predicated on my hatred for falsehood. The only person who can really represent the Torah is someone who despises Sheker and stands for emes, the truth. Rabbi Telzman has been a paragon of this trait, standing for the truth, standing for the emes, even where it costs him, even where it's difficult. He will not bend, he will not flinch from the truth. And in doing so, he has gathered everyone's respect. Sheker sonesi, he hates it. He hates the falsehood. Roish Dvorach emes, he stands for the truth. And that's the simon of a true Rov. You know, it's very easy to be a Rov and to be popular. I remember that Dan Berkowitz, my colleague, Colonel Russell, said, over in the name of his father, Pasuk says, L'mana achai v'reyoy adam v'shalom v'ach. If you want to have friends, achai v'reyoy, you can speak shalom. But l'man beis Hashem Elokeinu. But if you want to do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, avak shetov, then you have to do what's right. What's good and what's right. It's not easy sometimes to be a leader, a spiritual leader, and to stand up for the truth, especially when it's not so popular. But that's the simon of a true leader. And that is Keser Malchus. And these three midos have given him the most important thing, Keser Shem Tov, the good name. He has not only our respect, but he has everyone's respect. It's a difficult thing to be able to speak tonight, because I know this is going to be probably one of the last opportunities we'll be able to share with you. But on behalf of the Bezdin and on behalf of the Federation, I want to say thank you, Rabbi Telzer, for being the kind of Rov that you've been, for being the inspiration to this community, for standing up for the Torah and for truth, for not trying to be popular, even though you are popular. And in doing so, you stood up for the emes, you stood up for the Rabbanu Shalom, you've made a Kiddush Hashem. And my bracha is, continue in this way. Let not only Australian Jewry, but now world Jewry, have the benefit of all your talents and of all your midos, and that, by doing so, will bring the Mashiach to here Yameinu Aleinu.
When we finish, someone else will have.
My audience, the body, fellow guests, in recognition of all the qualities that Diamond Inspired refers to about Rav Telzer, it is my pleasure on behalf of the Federation, and in particular for all the support that you're providing the Federation and the Beis Din over many, many years, to be able to present you with a set of Shulchan Aruch.
Oh, wow.
This is one volume as a token of the presentation. The remaining volumes are in my car, they're just too heavy to bring in. But please come forward and accept this as a mark of our respect for you, and I wish for a much respect.
That's the 201st box as far as I'm going. 401st. Huh? look at all the boxes. It's not. It's not recording.
Round, you might be perplexed with what they're doing to put the Australian Fest. This was, of course, to a local Willy Unger. Willy Unger, you know, came from Austria, and he rang me earlier this afternoon, and he just recently had an operation. He would have loved to be here, but as he couldn't come here, he sends everybody his best wishes, particularly to Ralph and Reverson, and he's written a little letter. And he's also asked me to say, for those people, some of the younger members who don't know who Willy Unger was, he said he was a life president, a past Gabbai and past president of Finchley Central Synagogue. He strode like a giant, a colossus, through Finchley Central. He was chairman when we had our Silver Jubilee year, and anybody who knows Willie remembers him with great affection. And he's written here a letter, and I want to read it out to you. Dayonim Rabbonim, honorary officers, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot allow this occasion to pass without expressing my personal feelings to you, Rav Telsner, for your support to me and making my task easier. I immediately felt comfortable after your appointment as our Rav, and you were an example to all of us how to encompass all strands of Jewry by making everyone welcome to our shul, which already had the reputation of a friendly synagogue. Your sense of humour made light of any difficulty that cropped up, and your common sense overcame all disagreements that appeared even at board meetings. In your weekly droshes, you succeeded to weave in current topics of this country and of Israel. I always wondered where you found the time to keep up to date with current topics both in the Torah world as well as in the political arena. I will never forget your first Rosh Hashanah sermon, which started like this. The Chinese give a special name to their coming year at its beginning. Little did you know how I squirmed in my seat in the warden's box. I said to myself, "Oi, Gewalt, what can he be possibly driving at?" Then I really got hot under the collar. When you continued that this year, they called it the Year of the Dragon. But you hastily continued that this year in the Finchley Central Shul, we will call it the year of no excuses. No excuses for coming late, no excuses for not attending minyanim, shiurim, no excuses for talking during davening, etc. After that, I felt the need of one of Mrs. Needman's famous cherry brandies. Towards the end of Sefer Bereshis, which concluded last week, the Torah tells us in Parshas Vayigash that Yaakov Avinu learned that his beloved son Yosef is still alive, and he prepares to go down to Egypt to see him. Yosef had made arrangements that they would be dwelling in the region of Goshen. Chazal asked the question, why did Joseph do that? One answer given, and that his father Jacob would be afraid to bring his children and grandchildren to Egypt proper, where they would be exposed to idolatry and other Egyptian practices. In chapter 46, the Torah tells us that Jacob sent Yehuda ahead to Goshen in order to prepare for his arrival. And Rashi gives indeed the simple explanation that Yehuda was to set things up and survey the new place. But Rashi also quotes a midrash that suggests another meaning, lahoiros, from the word to teach, and not to show, which means that Judah was sent to set up places of study from which teachings will come forth. Rabbi Tzvi Zelda has followed in Yehuda's footsteps. He was also sent as a shaliach to Israel by the Rebbe. He fulfilled his Rebbe's wishes to scout out locations where there were no places of learning, where others did not bother to reach out, to bring the non-committed of our brethren under the canopy of Torah observance and learning. His efforts in Kiruv, bringing others closer, were accomplished when it was not a fashionable industry. On a personal level, I want to thank you on behalf of my family for the warmth and friendship you have shown to us and made us feel part of your extended family. I, for one, still treasure the times you visit Israel and have never failed to visit my home since I've made Aliyah, some 5.5 years ago. I feel sure that with your personality and your abilities, and of course the great Talmud Chacham that you are, you will no doubt succeed in whatever task you undertake, with the help of Hashem Yisborah. Really in life, there are coincidences and there are scary coincidences. Talking of Willie, there's an amazing coincidence that in 1986 we had our Silver Jubilee year. And one of the guests was somebody called Council Dennis Dibble, who was the Lord Mayor of Barnet. But he wasn't just the Lord Mayor of Barnet, he was the 23rd Lord Mayor of Barnet. And I mentioned this to Willie, and Willie then quoted from Psalm 23. And we really should have had the farewell party last night, which would have been the 23rd of Shabbat. But anyway, we've held it today, and it's going great guns. Now, if I say the word bingo evening, quiz supper, museum visits, old folks tea party, yes, it can only mean one thing, the Finchley Central Functions Committee. I'd like to call upon now the present chairman of the Finchley Functions Committee, Michael Hadjoff.
I know, but I don't know well. I have to.
Diane, Rabbi, Reverends and Talisman, honorary officers, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Functions Committee, I want to make a presentation to Rabbi Telsman. But first I want to say a few words. What can we say about our Rabbi? He's very tall, and he has that mischievous twinkle in his eyes when he talks to you. When I was a kid in Stamford Hill and I had a best friend who I would go bird nesting with, at the end of the day he would look at me with that same conspiratorial twinkle in his eye, and we would be happy together. I always get the same feeling when Svi tells me. Everything about him is big. He has big hands, big feet, and the biggest thing he has is his big heart. He worries about all his congregants, and Mrs. Telsner constantly invites the less privileged to their houses. I know, because I've been there many times. I tried to persuade the Rav that Australia was full of mosquitoes and there were long distances to travel and he shouldn't go, but he found an excuse for everything, and I think I have to let him go. Our rabbi is famous for his knowledge of kosher wine. He knows them all from Bartenura to Carmel. His recycling bin is the only one overflowing every week in Temple Fortune. And Rebbetzin helps. She does a very big mitzvah by distributing bread every week to the needy in the community. She's now looking for a volunteer to take over for her.
She is.
Lastly, our Rabbi is a wonderful mimic. If you've heard him calling a Sephardi to come to shul, he talks in a Sephardi accent. And if he talks to a German, he talks in a German or Yiddish accent. And all the community has benefited from his humanity. And along with his wife, have faithfully served the community for the past 23 years. And also, on behalf of the Sephardi contingent on Table 8, I'd like to thank him for looking after us all. Now I'd like to make this presentation, and I'm then going to hand over to Ben Bernstein, who's the previous Functions Committee Chairman.
Open it up. Give it to Mommy.
And Mrs. Telsner, my presentation that you're going to see, which is a clock in a cut glass surround, which we hope will remind you of Britain when you are far, far away. We must thank you for the many years which you've helped the Functions Committee, and of course indirectly for sure. Firstly, Rabbi Telsner, you've heard enough, of course, of your erudition and great respect that others hold you. One would say, for a start, that we have once a year in recent years a visit to the shul for the sukkah from 3 or 4 of the old age homes in this area. And when they come along, and the majority of those who come are either in wheelchairs your help. Nevertheless, each and every one is spoken to by you. In many cases, you persuade them to Edinburgh, and in the course of the afternoon, you are in many ways a remarkable host. So much so that on one year the musical accompaniment did not appear, so for an hour plus you were not only giving them jokes, old and new, but there was even some musical entertainment. And for those, of course, who were not there, I can assure you to hold the attention of those in advanced years for an hour plus is more than something. So that I tell you that if you should decide to have at any time a slight change of job ideas, then I feel sure you could well look for development on that score. Now, there's a saying that if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. And in Mrs. Elsner is a marvellous example of that. You all know, of course, that she has 12 children, which will be enough to bowl over many a woman, and I'm sure quite correctly. Nevertheless, as on the occasions over the years I've worked with her, the real identification would be to say that she's self-effacing, she's efficient, she's good work, she's got a very good heart, and she works hard. So that one can think on more than one occasion sitting on the kitchen table and discussing a few points which in a matter of 5 minutes are settled, and then the job proceeds. For a start, in earlier days, she used to hold baking sessions in the school kitchen, which ladies came and helped. The purpose of that being to enhance the weekly kiddish and basically provide variety which otherwise you wouldn't get. That phase passed for other reasons, but even today, now, we still get extra bits sent up from Mrs. Elsner, because Finchley Central kiddish is always full of variety. Not saying that every week is 5 stars, but certainly variety. Now, Mrs. Elsner, apart from what I've already mentioned, when the old age homes have their visits on Sukkot, will prepare the food in her own kitchen, saving us a lot of hard work, and then this is brought up and all has to be done is merely laid out. But the basic point, of course, she has done the major part. The crown of this sort of work is on the very Shabbaton that we've had over the years. 50 or 60 people sit down to a 3-course meal. Now that in itself is quite something, but the work is basically done again in her own kitchen, and the amount of food that she works on, I can tell you it's taken me half an hour to load the car before it comes up to shore. So if ever there was a case of someone who put herself out for the community, this is Mrs. Elsner. One reflects over the years, and tomorrow I shall be 75, as the various ministers and rabbonim I work with in different shuls, and yet thinking hard, I can't remember anything about any of the other of their wives. But in the case of Mrs. Elsner, she goes away to Australia, certainly with a grateful thanks to Finchley Central for all the work she's done over many years. Thank you very much.
This poor guy standing on the stage.
Mr. President of the Federation, a few Rabbonim who have remained behind, Mr. President, and all assembled guests, former members of our shul, friends, Mrs. Needleman, who's put together a most phenomenal evening, which myself and my wife and I Mazel Tov Ben on your birthday. May you have long and happy years and nachas from your children. And of course, Mazel Tov to our latest host in the Blaus on the engagement of their daughter Esther. As many of you know, I'm usually not caught out for words. And I'm reminded of a Rav who, after hearing so many different speeches, said as follows. In the beginning, I was listening. Towards the middle, I started believing. And at the end, I enjoyed it. Many things have been said this evening. Some things I would contest, some things I wouldn't. But in general, Horace said something which I think is very, very important. A Rav in general needs a kehillah to listen, to be challenged, to feel that what he says and what he is doing means something to people. There's a beautiful word in this week's Seder. When Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Kodesh Baruch Hu, Shal ne'olecha me'al raglecha, to take off the shoes that he's wearing, because the earth you are standing upon is a holy area. What is the difference if you wear shoes or you don't wear shoes? And the difference is very simple. When you wear shoes and you walk down the street, whatever's in your way equals the same. When you take shoes off, you feel every little stone, every pebble, everything which is on that ground, you feel. A Rav in a community does not wear shoes, because a Rav in a community has to feel, has to sense the insides of every single congregant, in happy occasions and in not so happy occasions. The Rav has to be strong, has to give warmth, affection, and to be able to answer the questions and the difficulties that many congregants go through. But at the end of the day, if there's no one listening, then the Rav gets a bit, if I may use the expression, apathetic, and thinks he's talking to the walls, who absorb everything, never challenge him, and are just there. A Rav, at the end of the day, has a lot on his shoulders. He realizes that the community is looking up to him for guidance. And a Rav who wants to give the guidance has to realize that he has only one entity to answer to, and that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Einal Gabov El Hashem Elikov. The only thing he has is to what God wants him to do. He may not be the most popular Rav. He may not say things that everyone wants him to say. But they have to be said. Because a Rav is supposed to be a leader. A Rav is supposed to be someone who's supposed to educate. And to tell people exactly what our tradition is, what our heritage is. And to be able to get the message through year in and year out. Every time before a Yom Tov comes along, I say to myself, they've heard it all before. Comes Rosh Hashanah, comes Yom Kippur, comes Pesach, comes Sukkot. How many times can you say the same thing and you have to realize that you really can't say the same thing and you have to say something different. You have to find something new. And when you sit down to a community and you see that people are willing to listen, you see that people are challenged and will attack you. I always look at my left side when I finish the drasha and hear what kind of rumblings are happening in that corner, which are always done so nicely, beautifully. And then in the back I hear some other rumblings. And of course, Mr. Reibzl, one of the elders of our community, always agrees with me. And all Balabatim should be like Mr. Reibzl. And you realize that the people who are listening. And you realize that people want something. When something happens in Eretz Yisrael, when a tragedy occurs, when something close to home occurs, people are waiting. People want to hear something. They want to be moved. They want to feel that there's something which is going to talk to them, which is going to give them that little bit of encouragement to continue with the difficulties and the problems. We just started reading Sefer Shmois, which talks about exile. which talks about very difficult times, which talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, a man brought up in a beautiful palace, who could have had a very easy life, but was not interested in an easy life. Nor of worth his salt is interested in an easy life. He could become a banker. We have some bankers in our shul who every Sunday morning put on white clothes and enjoy themselves for a few hours. We have those who play cricket. We have those who play tennis. We have those who even collect stamps, which is not that exciting. And we have those who criticize Chazon and those who criticize everything. A Rav is someone who has to realize that the community is made up of many, many different strands of people. I remember very quaintly when I first walked into the shul. I was living in Stamford Hill, which is a very pious area, and I was told that there's a little shul in Finchley looking for a Rav. So I said, all right, I'm willing to try out. And they said, would you come and meet Mr. Letterman? So I said, I don't know who the gentleman is, I've never met him before, but if he wants to meet me, he's okay. Took the train, started walking towards the shul, and we met in the cloakroom. And everybody was sitting in their coats, but the heating didn't work. And Mr. Letterman looks at me, looks at my wife, and says, you know that the Rav has to work. I said, well, I'm not here to look at the furniture, there wasn't too much furniture anyway. And you know your wife has to work? She says, my wife is willing to work, Baruch Hashem. And you know the Federation has a history and has a heritage. And he went on and on. He gave a very good speech. If I could repeat it tonight, I would repeat it most of the night. And I said, all right, doesn't bother me. And when I first came to the shul, there were some very interesting characters. Many of them were in the next world, who played an unbelievable role in making Finchley Central a very unique shul. We have characters that could fill whole books if you describe them, what they want, what they say, what's their problems, and what's their solutions, if there are any solutions. These people built up an unbelievable, cozy, warm, welcoming shul. And as a result of that, our community is something special. We may not be the largest community around, we certainly are not. But there's something in our shul that whenever anyone walks in and sees how people are friendly, and will even talk during davening to welcome you, and will give away the aliyah for somebody else, and give hagma to someone who's only 65 pounds, and say the Torah, which is Parshas Bereishis, so the whole thing is on the left, and he's a righty, and the Gaboyim start shaking and everything, they get from at that moment. And we allow a lot of things. Some things normal, some things middle of the road normal. But we are special and we are unique. 23 years is a long time. But I personally and my family have gone through those 23 years, Baruch Hashem, brought up our children, with the love and affection the shul has given us. The world situation has changed drastically. Anglo-Jewry has changed drastically. And we would like to believe, members of our shul, that we have added a lot of that spirit. And when people go through Finchley Central for a year, or for 2 years, or for 3 years, or for 4 years, they come out enriched. And they pass it on to the next generation, and we have a lot to be proud of our next generation. It is not, as many of you know, I've heard this from me many times, that I am leaving the shul. When I got married, just to give you a secret, the shadchan came over to me and told me that I want you to meet a very nice girl. Oh, no problem. She's from Australia. Australia? Where's that? And then he starts telling me about her mother's side of the family, which had nothing to do with Australia. He spent all the evening telling me about her mother in Boston, and in Worcester, and the brothers of Chazan in Englewood, New Jersey, but didn't talk much about Australia. I said to myself, Australia? It's quite far off. And I've held out for over 33 years in this country. And as many calls as I got from my father-in-law and mother-in-law that I must come, I told them I was sent here by the Rebbe, and I'm staying here. But as one gets older, when I came to the shul, my beard was not as white as it is now. There was a lot of other people, they seem to keep black, but I'm getting white. And at the end of the day, call came, and I believe, and I hope I'm making the right choice, that I need to take leave of England and Finchley Central and to go down to Australia to help my father-in-law Zangesund in his work in the last 45 years in Australia, building up an unbelievable Jewish community. Those of you who remember Yankee's bar mitzvah, he spoke and the shul shook when he told Yankee to sit down. And therefore, it is with a very sad and very heavy heart that I take leave of this community, a community who has given me so many years, first of all, listening, challenging, arguing, disagreeing. But at the end of the day, we get together and we're one large, happy family. If I've offended anyone in the shul, I ask you, Mechila. It wasn't done because I took light of any individual. We Americans sometimes get carried away, as you may know. I've tried to do my job, helping my wife and my family. I hope we've succeeded a little bit. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless all of you with long life, healthy long years, nachas from your children and grandchildren. And a drasha could not be complete without saying those famous words, the coming of the third Beis Hamikdash and Mashiach Tzidkenu. Thank you. defeated.